This is the round ahead, thanks to Coles. Nat Edwards, Josh Gabelich and Chad Wingard with you. And Josh, how good 9 games of footy are coming our way?
Much better than 2, isn't it, Nat? It wasn't enough in opening round. Finally, we've got 9 to look forward to.
And Chad, you're a big fan of Meek Mondays.
Oh, yes, waking up on a Monday after a win. How good.
All right, this is not about the Hawks, though. This is about round 1 and what is coming our way. Of course, the grand final rematch headlines a big Saturday lineup. Dan Houston's going to make his Collingwood debut against his old side. That could be spicy on the Sunday. The Crows host the Saints. And we've got our first ever Jim Steins game. The D's facing off against the Red Hot Giants. Cannot wait with that. But, of course, we start with Thursday night footy, thanks, of course, to Coles. And 30 years after Carlton great Scott Camperelli made his debut in round 1 for the Blues, well, his son Lucas is about to do the same after impressing Josh in the pre-season on a wing. A great story because we all love a father-son.
I especially love a father-son.
I know
you know that. There's so much romance in that rule.
Yeah.
We love it. We've seen the Dacosses and the Ashcrofts in recent times. We're going to see an Ashcroft again this Saturday. We'll get to him, of course, but I cannot wait to see Lucas. This guy's bolted. This time last year, didn't feel like he'd be ready to play AFL in round 1, and all of a sudden he's going to be there, and he's not the only debutant going to be at the MCG on Thursday night.
And of course, Chad, the last time the Blues had a debutant in round 1 with the last name Camperelli, they went on to win the flag.
Yeah, well, that's no pressure, right? Like an absolute star, I reckon everyone remembers their debut. I remember every single kick, every single missed handball. It's something that you'll remember forever.
Did you actually kick the ball in your debut? We might have to revisit that at some
maybe
point.
another day.
But Scott Camperelli, what a great player he was for Carlton. And obviously he's got the twins now, Josh, in both Lucas and Ben, who were drafted last year. And this is going to get Blues fans up and about on a Thursday night.
It certainly is, and we should see Ben at some point later in the year. He's injured at the moment. He was taken at pick 43 last year. Lucas was the one that got taken at pick 54. He was no guarantee to be drafted midway through the season. So the fact that he's playing in round 1 says a lot about how good his first pre-season has been.
And let's be honest, from a Richmond perspective, look, it's going to be a tough season for the Tiger Army. I think there's going to be a fair bit of pain, but at least on Thursday night, Chad, they can celebrate 3 debutants, their high draft picks, of course headlined by the number 1 pick in Sam Lawler. Being a high draft pick, though, it does come with a little bit of pressure.
Yes, it does come with a lot of pressure, and I think being the first pick as well, like we saw what happened with Jack Watts, and you know the pressure can get to you, but this kid looks amazing. I think, like I said, the pressure from the team is not there, so obviously they're not expected to win straight away. No. So it's all about development, all about growth for them this year.
I think Tigers fans think, Josh, that maybe he might be the Messiah potentially, but it is good. Like, they need something to buy into this season, don't they?
They do. It's all about youth. Clearly, Nat Edwards' second season in charge. I can't wait to see Sam Lawler, just like I can't wait to see Luke Traynor and Harry Armstrong. And Josh Smiley's going to excite when he's good to go.
Yeah, you are right there. Friday night footy this week. It is a big one. I cannot wait. It is Hawthorn and Essendon at the MCG. 2 traditional rivals going head to head. Of course, Essendon have the wood over the Hawks because they have won 6 of the last 7 games. Chad, you've played in a couple of these, and it's fair to say there is no love lost between these 2 supporter groups.
Yes, thanks for reminding me. We can discuss that at stage.
Get it off the set.
Yes, but actually, Essendon obviously come in as not favourites, heavily. Hawthorn come as heavily favourites. And I think they're obviously coming off last week. They were unbelievable. Obviously losing Warple this week's huge hit. But like I said, I think it's going to be interesting. They've had the advantage of watching them and scouting them, but it should be a good game. I'm hoping our Hawks can get another one.
We will see. Now, there are lots of pre-game rituals and routines that players like to follow. And this one, well, it caught us a little bit by surprise, Josh. It is Hawthorn star Jack Ginnivan, knee-deep in a book. Albeit a book that we've seen before, let's be honest.
Nat, this was the AFL's AJ Brown moment, because if you go back to the wildcard game back in January, AJ Brown sent social media into a frenzy when he was reading Inner Excellence in the 4th quarter of a wildcard game. Okay. It was quite incredible at the time. We've got the vision of him there, and I can tell you what happened with that. So it was ranked 552,000 on Amazon in that very moment. Within 24 hours, it had surged to number 1 on Amazon. Now, I've actually interviewed Jim Murphy, the author of this book, for a piece that's going up on afl.com.au today, and he can't believe the attention that's come from him. This is a guy that was a minor league baseballer for 3 years with the Chicago Cubs. Then he dedicated 5 years of his life to researching what prevented athletes from getting the best out of themselves in moments that matter. He actually wasn't aware of this moment until I emailed him on Friday night. But he is aware of AFL footy because he came out here for the Sydney Olympics with the South African baseball team as their hitting coach.
Oh my goodness, that is a story. Now, Chad, you know Guinea well.
Yes.
Was this all show for the cameras, or is he genuinely reading this book, or is he doing a bit of a LeBron?
I'm going to kind of walk the line here, I reckon.
Come on.
But what it did remind me of is, as we look here, King James, what do you notice about all these photos?
Will you pick this up? Please explain.
He's quite early on, isn't he?
He is on the first page of every book. So it just reminded me, I couldn't bring it up. LeBron James on the first page. Was Guinea actually reading the book? I'm going to have to chase up with him this week because it actually reminded me of King James. Maybe reading, maybe not. Maybe it was for the cameras, but I'll let you decide.
I love that. He's reading the Hunger Games. Great series, by the way. But there were lots of tabs on Guinea's book, so it makes me think that maybe it was legitimate. We will see. Maybe we'll have to get him on the show to talk about it. Time now for the hook. And Geelong and Fremantle go head-to-head on Saturday. Two flag fancies, of course. It's going to be 35 degrees down at the Cattery. But what makes this game must-watch for me are the two high-profile recruits that came across in the off-season in Bailey Smith and Shea Bolton. We should say, of course, that Shea Bolton is a test for Saturday with leg soreness. But Josh, from a Bailey Smith perspective, Vaslenka, what can we expect?
How exciting is this? I mean, it took a long time for him to move from the Western Bulldogs to the Cattery. He finally got that trade just before the deadline last October. It was a complex deal in the end. 4 clubs involved, 3 players. Jack McRae moved to St Kilda. Matt Kennedy moved to the Western Bulldogs. The Dogs also got pick 17. But Chad, when it comes to Bailey Smith, I mean, he's done a full pre-season now, but he hasn't played since round 23, 2023. He missed all of last year with an ACL repair. What can we expect from him this year? Can he get going straight away?
Well, sometimes when you're in rehab for that long, you are going to be fit, right? You're running so much, but there's such a difference between fitness and match fitness. So it could take him a little bit to get his legs underneath him. But I'm excited. He's a young player coming off ACL. Obviously, he's very much in the media a lot, but I think he's a great player and a lot of upside for him.
Look, we might have to wait a little bit longer, of course, for Shea Bolton to make his debut. Yes. But for me, that recruitment pushes Freo into a top 4 side. What do you see that he could add to this Dockers outfit?
Well, that's the thing. He can play on ball, he can play out forward. And I think the Dockers are screaming for someone who can have that offensive flair. Someone who can, with Walters and, you know, the guys like Sarong, to actually create some offence for him. And he's an absolute star. We've seen, obviously, what he did in the pre-season. Yeah. Can't wait for him to see what he does when he heads on the track. Now,
Josh, Geelong rarely lose at home, but Fremantle have a fairly good record against the Dockers against the Cats at the Cattery. They've won 4 of their last 7. Is it relevant, given that the last time that happened was 2 years ago?
I think it is relevant, Nat, because they don't travel there too often. That's only 7 times in the last 12 years, and that dates back to that very famous qualifying final performance back in 2013. Ross the Boss was in charge of Fremantle at the time. Michael Barlow had 32 and kicked 3 in an amazing finals performance. But it should hold no fears for them because they can travel far, because you've got to fly to Melbourne, drive an hour to Geelong, stay there the night before and get the job done. I think they're going to be a big chance this weekend.
Yep, they certainly have a long way to travel, do Fremantle. You two, though, you don't have that far to go because I need you to get up to the screen, get some steps in. You've got to hit the 10,000 mark today, so this will get you, about 5 steps. But on Sunday, of course, the D's host the Red Hot Giants at the MCG. I was really looking forward to the ruck battle between Max Gawn and Kieran Briggs. Of course, Briggs will be out due to concussion, but it got us thinking here on the round ahead. Who could be the one this year, if anyone, to dethrone the ruck king in Max Gawn? So I'll throw it over to you, boys. Who is it?
Well, Nat, Max Gawn is the undisputed ruck king. When you look at his resume now, 7 All-Australian Blazers, Chad, in the past 9 seasons. He enters his 16th season at the peak of his powers. He's 33. He's had a ripping pre-season. There are only 3 other players in the competition right now that have been All-Australian ruckmen. Brodie Grundy's a 2-time All-Australian ruckman. Hasn't been one since 2019. Tim English was most recently an All-Australian ruckman in 2023. And Todd Goldstein, not on this page, but still going around at 36. If anyone is going to dethrone Max Gawn this year, who will it be?
All right, you're going to start thinking that I'm biased. But I'm going to have to talk You're going to have to talk about Lloyd Meek. I think, obviously, last year he was the second highest and third highest in hit-outs and hit-outs to advantages. That's a huge effort. Obviously, he's 26. He's actually coming into his contract year, which is a massive motivation. I think what sets him apart, you look here, his ability to stay involved. So last week he had 6 clearances, he had 5 tackles, he had 2 shots on goal. And what I love about him is his aggression. He's a mix of endurance and power. To get this tackle, like, unbelievable. I think that's what's going to set him apart. He doesn't have the aerial presence, which he's still working on. But like I said, he's an absolute winner. Contract year, I expected big things from Mikos.
Very shrewd piece of list management going back to 2022 for the Hawthorn Football Club. 1 of 10 recycled players that played on Friday night for them. Now, if we were having this discussion pre-Christmas, I would have said Rowan Marshall. But when you factor in the fact he's missed 2 months to start the year due to a stress fracture in his pelvis, quite an unusual injury. He's going to play this weekend. I'm going to go with Darcy Cameron. This is a guy that exploded in 2024. He was included in the All-Australian squad for the first time with Tristan Sherry. Came runner-up in the Copeland Trophy behind Nick Dacos. And there's a little bit of Max Gawn about the way he defends. He gets back behind the ball and takes intercept marks. So I really like the way he is building. But what about Tom De Koning? This is a guy that we're going to be discussing at length in 2025. His signature is being pursued by so many different clubs. Can he become an elite ruckman this year?
That is the question. I mean, you look at his age, 25. To have the experience that he has, I suppose the next level is actually getting to that elite level. Can he get to Gawn's, I suppose, level? But at 25, to be a ruckman that age, they don't normally, I suppose, play until they're 26, 27, 28. So his ink, like you said, on that contract is going to be the talking point. Hopefully it doesn't derail him. I think he's in for a big year.
Cannot wait to watch how this plays out. I still think that Max Gawn might be the king of the rucks as we head into 2026 with maybe an 8th All-Australian Blazer. But let's get on to Brisbane. It has been such an unusual start to their 2025 campaign. Of course, last week their match was postponed, the season opener. This Saturday, it's the grand final rematch at the SCG on Saturday. Chad, the Lions co-captain in Harris Andrews said he's not fazed by the strange build-up, but are you concerned at all? Given their schedule, look at it, it's just been all over the shop.
I think it goes back to, obviously during COVID, the boys are so much more, I suppose, resilient about change. So
Don't say agile.
Very agile. I mean, I think, and you see what they've had to deal with mentally, but I think it's also about placebo. Because if he comes out as a leader and says, this is crazy, this is not on, it could reek through the whole group, and that's not what they want to do. So he's been a great leader, whether it is, impactful or not. Hopefully it's not. He's got to say the right things. And
Josh, they had great plans, of course, to unfurl their flag. That all gets upset now. Does that really matter in the scheme of things? Do you think the Lions are fazed by that?
They've had much bigger issues in that part of the world, of course. But the plan was to have Joe Danaher involved in unfurling the premiership flag, their first flag in 20 years. It would have been great. They had Simon Black lined up. They had Jonathan Brown lined up. They had pyrotechnics. They're not going to be able to do that in round 2 in the Sunday slot against West Coast. But hopefully we still see Joe Danaher at some point this year.
Well, there is another juicy game coming our way. On Saturday night, we will see Boom Pies recruit Dan Houston make his debut. And of course, good scheduling from the AFL, of course. It is against his former side in Port Adelaide. He returns from a 5-week suspension for this hit on Isaac Rankin. We saw that during the showdown. Of course, he missed finals. Josh, how do you see him fitting into this Collingwood outfit?
Well, he spent most of the pre-season playing between midfield and halfback. Now, he's been named All-Australian past 2 seasons at halfback. He's the best halfback in the comp, I think.
Look at his
right now. He's 27, he's at the peak of his powers. I think he's going to be the recruit of the year, and they need him to come in and have an instant impact because they were very disappointing first up against GWS.
They were indeed. To the tape now, and Chad, you know exactly what it's like to face off against your former side because you moved from Port Adelaide to Hawthorn. And let's go back to 2019 as we roll the tape in round 10.
Geez, you got it easy. Launceston to face your old side.
Yeah, I know. Not even at the Adelaide Oval. Can you imagine what that would have been like for you?
Hey, so does Houston. He's at the MCG, so he's got 100,000 faithful supporting him. Like I said, I think you want to be in the action early. I think Houston's going to want to have that support. But like as you can see, it's all love and smiles at the end of the game, but during the game, it's all tussle. It's like, the ex-girlfriend getting pretty mad. Yeah. But like I said, I think Houston's absolute star, could be a recruit of the year, and I wish him all the best.
Did you get any scars left over from that little scuffle?
Yeah, believe it or not, it was from Puopolo, who actually, I've got the cigar. He ripped me off the ground, thinking that he's helping. I'm like, Poppy, you just made it worse. I'm actually bleeding because of you, not anyone else.
That is ridiculous. Come on, Poppy, what are you doing? Now, as Josh gets ready to paint us another picture of a player in the AFL chat, I do want to quickly touch on the Bulldogs and North Melbourne game. game, because on paper, it's not necessarily a must-watch game, but however, this could be the upset of the week. Do you think the Roos are a legit chance?
Well, the Roos have the third worst odds to win this game. So this is my upset of the round. Let me just read some of the outs. We've got Waitman, Treloar, Johannesson, Bont, Jones and Jamara. And with the additions of Jack Darling, Luke Parker and Daniels, I actually don't think if the North Melbourne could get on top in the midfield, I don't think they have an answer for Darling and Larkey. So they're my upset. I reckon North Melbourne by 2 goals.
Okay, I actually don't mind that. I might tip North Melbourne myself. All right, well, Josh, you have a Bulldog that you want to discuss a little bit more in your player portrait series this week.
Well, Nat, 71 players were selected in last November's AFL draft, but no one has the fascinating background that Sam Davidson has, and he is poised to make his debut on Saturday night against North Melbourne. Now, at the stage that he was taken at pick 51, he just completed the 5th year of a medical degree. Yes, a 5th year. Quite incredible to think. He had a footy resume that read like a country gun for hire. He played for Sale City, he played for Mafra, he played for South Mildura. This was all due to rural placements during his time studying, but at the end of 2023, he made the decision that he wanted to have one crack at State League footy. He signed up with Richmond's VFL program, and by midway through the season, Essendon actually interviewed him before the mid-season rookie draft. They balked, but by the end of the year, he won the Fothergill Round Mitchell Medal as the best young talent in the VFL, and he was always going to get drafted from that point. But you go back to draft night, when Laura Kane read out his name, he found himself in a dilemma, because you can't study medicine and play full-time AFL. There's simply not enough time in the week. Now, students defer all the time.
Yeah, they do.
But Monash Medical School had never had a student defer indefinitely to play AFL. Now, he's not going to not study this year. He's actually already started a part-time PhD in paediatric health. His mum's a paediatrician. His older brother's a paediatrician. He wants to be one once footy finishes, but that plan is currently on hold.
It's such an incredible story, and what makes it even better too is that, Josh, he is a lifelong Bulldogs fan, so what a dream come true.
It is an absolute dream. And you go back to elimination final day last year, and the one and only meeting he had with the Western Bulldogs was the morning of the elimination final. Sam Powell, the list manager, and Dom Alessi, the national recruiting manager, came and met him at his house hours before that game against Hawthorn. Sam was a bit surprised by that because he knew how significant the day was, but that's what clubs do. In September, they find little slots in that time of the year. Now, as you touched on, Sam is an avid Western Bulldogs supporter. He rarely missed a game growing up. He was there in 2016, standing room with his younger brother, having the day of his life, and he was back at the MCG on elimination final night. Now, he is in the frame to play in the very next game.
How good is that? That is such a great story. Thanks, Josh. And of course, if you want to read more about Sam Davidson, you can head to afl.com.au and the AFL Live app. Josh has been very much obsessed with Sam, so I hope we can stop talking about him now. Talk about some other players that are going on in the competition. And that is it for the round ahead. Chad, Josh, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nat.
Enjoy round one, of course. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back again next Wednesday, same time, same place on the round ahead. Thanks to Coles.